we've got two important things to circle. If I circle it, you circle it. We're finding the area of a sector. What's the area formula for a circle? That's the first thing I'm going to write down. If I just did that, would I have the right answer? No, that's the whole thing, and I just want this little portion here. Does your paper have 45 or 40 on it? All right, I'll just change mine. So what would you do if you wanted to find the half circle? Divided by 2, would you cut it in half? Is that a fraction? So all we need to do is create a fraction. We want a fraction of the area. So I'm going to take the whole thing and find 43/60ths of it. Some people like to reduce that. It's not always reducible. I would just keep those numbers. You could do 1/9 because it reduces to that. You're finding a fraction of the area. Let's start filling in. But in terms of pi, here's what happens. 40 times pi times radius, which is 20, which is being squared, over 360. You'll notice I did not put in 3.14. When you see the phrase in terms of pi, you're doing less work. You're not putting in 3.14, and we're not rounding. So, no 3.14, no rounding. It's sort of like doing radicals. If you did 7 radical 2 on your calculator, would that come out even? Would it be a never-ending decimal? As long as I leave it in this form, it's still exact. I haven't rounded. It's still exact, and now I can combine it with other radicals. Maybe those radicals will go away, and then I'll just be left with whole numbers. As soon as you start rounding and putting in 3.14 or figuring out square roots, then it's not exact anymore. When we leave that in the problem, I'm going to move things around. Put 20 squared right here. Put the 360 here. When I keep that in there, it's still exact. Because I haven't rounded, I haven't put in an approximation for pi. I don't want this to be decimal either. I'd like this to be just a low, a reduced fraction. Excuse me. What's 40 times 400 divided by 360? Does that work out even? Do you get a repeating decimal? So how do you change that back into a fraction? Use your math key, and the first line is fraction. You should get 400 over 9. We just attach the pi symbol with it. So I know the answer is not 400 over 9. It's 400 over 9 times 3.14 or whatever pi is going to be. This is area. So what units do I attach to that? Centimeters squared. That is considered an in terms of pi answer. We have it rounded. It's in lowest terms. The pi symbol is there because we still haven't multiplied by it yet. And as long as we do that, it's still considered to be exact for a little while. Number 10. We're not using that phrase. We're using to the nearest 10. That means use 3.14 and round. So everything we didn't do up there, now we're going to do. But we're being asked a different question. We're not being asked area of pi piece. We're being asked the length of the arc from here to here. You just took a chapter 10 test on circles. If I said that that was 100 degrees and it was at the center, how many degrees is that arc?
100.
Write that in. That's nice, but that doesn't help us with specifics. I know that 100 degrees is less than half the circle, it's more than a quarter of the circle, but I don't know the actual distance in meters. It could be 20 meters, 30 meters, 400 meters. I have no idea. What do we call this distance? Circumference. So what I need to do is find a fraction of the circumference. What is the top formula for circumference of a circle on your formula sheet? 2 pi r. So I'm going to do with 2 pi r exactly what I did with pi r squared up there. Pi r squared goes with area. If I'm looking for length, then I got to use the circumference formula. I still need a fraction. 360, what's my degrees for this one? 100. I'm finding 100 3/60ths of the circumference. This says to the nearest tenth, so I want to substitute stuff in and round. 100 times 2 times 3.14 this time, times a radius of 26, all divided by 360. I'm going to round. What is it? 100 times 2 times 3.14 times 26 divided by 360. 40. I need 1 decimal place to the nearest 10. For what kind of units do you use for lengths? Just regular distance. No need for squaring or to third power. It's just a normal distance. Every problem's different. You might see problems asking for, in terms of pi, for anything that has a circle in it. Does a cylinder have a circle in it? Well, if you're doing a cylinder problem that says in terms of pi, no 3.14 and no rounding. You might see this type of problem that we just did. This might be an in terms of pi problem. It all depends on the directions that are handed to you. Read, underline. If it says to the nearest tenth, substitute everything in and round. If it says in terms of pi, don't put pi in, you just include pi as part of the answer. That's what your workbook work is for. Page 214, page 217, 8, 9, 10. I think in the workbook, they don't really say what's going on, whether it's in terms of pi or to the nearest tenth. I would round that for the workbook. If you don't see the specific term or phrase in terms of pi, then you shouldn't do it. You should actually substitute and round. Any questions on those two? You already have this. You already know pi r squared. You already know 2 pi r. We're just finding fractions of them using our degrees. Take out your packet and get it to your groups. Rest of the period, you're looking at finishing up your answer sheets.